activities, and she provides academic support to our fellows. Our next speaker will be Samuel Serafiel. He's the program manager, and he basically manages the master's program. He also oversees our website and social media platforms. And then also tonight we have Sandra Oliver. She's the MFP specialist. She's the newest team member, but she's been with us about 2 months now, but she came to us and hit the ground running, having been an intern at SAMHSA prior to joining our team. And she will be monitoring your questions tonight. So without further ado, Dr. Outlaw.
Good evening, everyone. SAMHSA's mission is to reduce the impact of substance abuse and mental health illnesses on America's communities, which we all know are in some in real spiraling up these days, both mental health issues and substance abuse issues. The Minority Fellowship Program, the purpose of it is to reduce health disparities and improve health outcomes for racially and ethnically diverse populations by increasing the number of culturally competent behavioral health professionals available to work with underserved and unserved populations in the public and private nonprofit sectors. SAMHSA has certain goals for the MFP, certain goals and objectives, and as you can read them here on the PowerPoint, the most primary one is to increase the number of trained professionals because it helps with the mission of having culturally competent people to treat people who often are not treated in the majority treatment places in ways that will help them to improve and to reduce behavioral health disparities, improve the outcome for ethnic minorities, to provide financial support for the MFP fellows, and equally as important, to provide access to cutting-edge training opportunities, and to provide resources to the fellows that they may not get otherwise, and to collect program data to validate that the MFP is being successful and having the outcomes that support all these goals and objectives. SAMHSA's expectation of the minority fellows. The prior to work to improve behavioral health conditions of ethnic and racial minorities, and you've heard that now in the last 2 slides. That's a real pressing expectation that the people who graduate and come out of this program will work in ethnic and racial minority communities, help to decrease or eradicate the mental health and substance abuse disparities, to assist SAMHSA in maintaining program funding, to strengthen your professional foundation, to give back, which is a very important part of the expectations, and we lean on the old African proverb, each one teach one, or each one bring another along. And to help SAMHSA promote the Minority Fellowship Program through all the avenues, social media, word of mouth, talking about the program at your school or university, and through your publications. Participate in the MF community of learning, and to complete all MFP surveys administered by SAMHSA and your sponsoring fellowship organization. In this case, the sponsoring fellowship organization is the American Nurses Association, and this is really important, and the reason we have all underscored is this is our way of generating data that we give to SAMHSA, who gives it to Congress to allocate and the funding for this very, very, very important program. So here at the end, we thought it would, of my presentation at this point, we thought it would be really very fruitful for you to see what we call our deliverables or our outcomes. Since 1974, the MFP has graduated more than 350 minority nurses at the doctoral level, specializing in mental health and substance abuse. And we have also graduated now a number of students at the master's level, and our doctoral graduates are both PhD and DAC graduates. And so you see here the map. We populated the map with many of the faces of the people who have graduated from the program. I think somebody needs to use their phone.
Yes, please mute your lines. All the folks that are on the phone, please mute your lines. Thank you.
I'm done, Samuel. I'm passing off now.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Outlaw.
Okay. The eligibility requirements for the doctoral program. Again, this is Janet Jackson. And you must be a citizen or a permanent resident, American citizen or a permanent resident. Your ethnicity, you must be a member of an ethnic or racial minority group, and this is SAMHSA's designation, not ANA's designation, but SAMHSA defines the minority group, Asian or Asian American, Black or African American, Hispanic or Latino, American Indian or Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian and or Pacific Islanders. And then our applicants should have a master's degree or completed at least 9 credits that are related to the psychiatric mental health or substance abuse. And you must be enrolled as a full-time doctoral student in a fully accredited nursing program. And then full-time student is determined by your university. The number of credit hours is determined by each university has varying numbers of credit hours, but it must be full-time. And then a fully accredited school or degree program is one that is accredited by a national accrediting agency and or a state approval agency recognized by the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education. And then you must include in your application, your CV, your letters of recommendation, your essays. They should demonstrate your commitment to a career in substance abuse or psychiatric mental health issues that are affecting the minority population.
Great. Thank you, Janet. So we'll move on to the master's eligibility requirements. Similarly to the doctoral, in regards to citizenship, you must be an American citizen or permanent resident. Again, the ethnicity and race categories are similar in terms of the SAMHSA designations of Asian or Asian American, Black or African American, Hispanic or Latino, American Indian or Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. In terms of enrollment status, you must be enrolled in a full-time accredited master's degree behavioral health program in nursing, designated by the credit hours or predetermined number of courses. A fully accredited degree program is one that's recognized by a national accrediting agency, which is approved, again, by the Secretary of the United States Department of Education. Your master's level curriculum and plan of study must embody behavioral health disorders prevention, treatment, and recovery that are undergirded with theoretical or clinical science. Your approved plan of study signed by a major academic advisor should include some required core courses and clinical practice hours. It must be submitted to the MFP staff upon your acceptance. You must be committed to sustaining a career that provides behavioral health services for the designated populations in the fellowship. And we'll talk about sort of where that's reflected in your application. So that brings us to the actual application site. And again, I just want to take this opportunity to invite all those who have questions to put them in the chat box so that we can keep them and then respond to them as we proceed through the rest of the session. So this is our application site. It is at the apply.emfp.org URL. When you're there, you'll find this. You can, if you're a first-time applicant, by clicking on register, it'll ask you for your email, password that you'd like to use, and first name, last name, at which point you'll basically be given access to the application system. Once you've, sorry about that, I think I pressed the wrong button here. Second. Okay, thank you. Okay, so once you have gotten into the system, you will then be able to log in and select which application you want to complete an application for, whether it's the doctoral fellowship or the master's fellowship. So you want to be mindful of that because the time that you'll be spending on the application, you'd want to ensure that you are completing the right one at the end of it. If you're a doctoral student pursuing a PhD or DNP, you'd want to pick the MFP doctoral fellowship. If you're pursuing a master's, pick the second one, the master's fellowship. So what we're going to go through now is sort of the various tabs that are on the application page and then the other resources that are located there. As you can see, the system to the application is broken down into major categories that are notated at the top of the tab. As you complete those tabs and save them, if they are complete, all required information is complete, you'll notice that a green checkbox will appear on those tabs. The application is not considered complete until you have check marks on all the relevant tabs, and then the whole application is complete. When we go to shortlist or review and provide to our National Advisory Committee members the applications for review, we will only be picking those that are considered complete in the system. So it's very essential that you monitor that and make sure that you submit all the information. So the first tab there is just the applicant tab. It generally includes, your name, last name, your address. There's also space there to designate any kind of licensure that you hold, so you would sort of notate that on that particular tab. The second tab is demographics. That's where you'll be sort of including information about, again, gender, ethnicity, and the like. Pretty direct information there. The next one will be on education status. This is where you'll designate, in part, aside from the RN licensure details, whether you're doing a research proposal as a PhD student or project DNP project proposal, and then you provide sort of the details related to those information on that tab. Later on, actually sort of on the master side, there's a designation for a work plan, number of hours, and so there's sort of slight difference from the PhD doctoral section there. The next tab will include, one second, okay, we're trying to put the chat box. I apologize, everyone, but we're going to just try to minimize this so that everyone is able to ask a question here. We're having a slight technical difficulty with that. Just 1 second. Okay. So some reason we are, okay, there we go. We're straight with that now, so we can continue with the main application review. The next panel here is the Education tab, which will allow you to provide information about both your proposed location for schooling, the doctoral program, as well as previous. So you would write the sort of history of the various educational programs you've been involved with there. Okay. And next, we will be on funding. In this section, you'll be able to detail your current or anticipated sources of funding. As you can see, we have up to 4 options there for you to list. If you say you're going to get 2 sources, you have to sort of name them, provide the name, amount and amount of the funding. So who's the organization that's providing you the funding, and the amount, and also provide a brief description. The reason why is, for us, one of the requirements for receiving the MFP funding is that you cannot be receiving another federally funded grant at the same time. So you can only have one federally funding grant if you're with the MFP. So if you all have any questions, we could talk about that as well. The next tab will be references. Under the reference section, you would list the prefix of the person who you're going to be providing your reference, their first name, last name, and then you write you submit their email and click Initiate Email Request. What that does is it will send the person who is going to supply your reference an email to log back into our application system, fill out the reference, and also upload any reference letters that they may have. We have experienced a few people whose advisors or references had not received the emails. Generally, that's because it's in their spam box. But and then again, sometimes there are, for whatever reason, they don't receive it. So if one thing that we highly advise applicants to do is, as soon as you start your application, please contact your references, almost skip to this tab and put the information on to start that process, so that you have ample time for them to complete their references and submit them for your application to be considered complete. So you do not want to have done all the parts on your end, but not have all your references in by the deadline, so that your application isn't considered complete. And if there are any technical issues that they are facing, those can be addressed ahead of time, ahead of the actual application deadline. So we highly encourage you to sort of jump on that and sort of move forward. The next page is the page where you will upload your curriculum vitae, your CV, the essay, which we'll touch base on, scholarly writing, and then your Social Security form. If you look at the right-hand side of the screen, you'll have resources. There's a resource box, the second box sort of on that side, that gives you instructions on your CV, gives you instructions on your essay, as well as the Social Security form as well. For the essay is a critical piece of the application process that we also encourage you to get started early, to talk about whether it's the personal and the scientific sort of underpinnings of why you are pursuing your doctoral degree. And this is for the doctoral applicant. For the master's student, what we'll be asking you is to upload a one-page document to detail why you're interested in pursuing a master's degree in psychiatric mental health nursing. And what this does is it provides the story for the National Advisory Committee members about sort of the where you've been, why you're interested in that, and where you plan to go. As our charter from SAMHSA is to help close the healthcare sort of disparity that exists within the mental health and behavioral health nursing field, this is what sort of connects with our National Advisory Committee members and informs them sort of about your intent in that regard. With the scholarly writing, similarly, if you have work that you've done for previously or currently working on that can fit in that category, please do, take time to sort of, work on that, get reviewed, and uploaded onto the application. For the master's students, again, this is the opportunity to sort of really talk about, given that particularly the master's students are more than likely working in a clinical setting, to really speak to sort of why there's an interest in sort of going in that environment and providing care for minority communities. And so these will be uploaded onto the application system. They can be done as a PDF document, preferably, for us to download with your application material and submit to the National Advisory Committee for later review. We also ask at on the master's levels to upload a proof of acceptance into the program, which is also asked for the doctoral students in the earlier tab. So as we move to the last tab, we're really looking at you sort of a checklist, in a sense, to confirm that you've completed the core sections, all of the sections there. But again, what's important for you is that this is one way of sort of making sure that you've covered all the parts of the application, but the application system itself will show you on the tabs as you're completing them to make sure it's complete, that you've submitted all the required information. And then towards the bottom there, it's a confirmation on your certification that all the information that you've submitted, correctly, and then you provide sort of your digital signature and date. And to complete the application, you will submit it as final, at which point that will register on our end. So that pretty much covers the online application system. We've really revamped it and continuously working on it to make it user-friendly and capture all the required information, but also make it in a way that's intuitive as you navigate the various sections. But every so often, if you do have any technical issues or issues related to it, you can reach out to us via the online system or at mfp@ana.org. So with that, that covers sort of the overall application process. I think we can switch over to the Q&A. Looks like from the chat box, we already have a few questions that have been asked. Okay, I think, Sandra, you answered one of them with the application deadline.
Yes.
Okay.
Keisha wanted to know, if I don't start my DMP program until the fall of 2019, may I still apply?
Go ahead, Daniel, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just thinking fall of 2019, our grant year starts in September. And so you are starting your program in September? Is that what I hear? September 2019 is when you start the program?
Correct. That's what it looks
like.
Obviously,
yeah, I mean, she can apply, but, what the advisory committee is looking for is what you've already done. If you have some work that you have already in a program, that is ideal. You can apply, but you have to remember that you're going to be competing with a lot more applicants who may already have been in a program and have some material to submit for the advisory committee to review and score. I'm not discouraging you. I'm just saying that your application is going to have to really be stellar to compete with some of the others that are already in a program. Does that answer your question?
You said, it is postgraduate certificate. and she will finish in May 2019. Yeah. Did that answer your question, Keisha? Let me see. All right, she said yes, thank you. The second question was from Keitra. She said, are there any opportunities for students completing postdoctoral programs in the field?
We don't have postdoctoral fellowships, no, not at this time. In the past we did, but the current grant does not offer postdoc fellowships.
Another question was, are psych mental health postmaster students eligible?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Is psych mental health?
Are psych mental health postmaster students eligible?
Postmaster certificate. So if it's a certificate program, one of the things, and this is also to be noted in your application, it's very important to be very clear as you're applying, especially for the master's program, whether you're doing it, whether you're in a certificate program or in a degree serving program. Due to the regulations of our funder, SAMHSA, we are only able to provide fellowships for people who are in full-time degree serving programs. That's key. So when that is a requirement.
Okay. Jason asked, I am currently a family nurse practitioner. I have been accepted to a postmaster psych mental health practitioner DNP program. Would I apply to the MSN or doctoral fellowship?
He's been accepted into a postmaster's and a DNP. Combined, it's a combined degree?
Right, that's what it looks like.
It looks like
it is a combined degree.
Right, then you would apply for the DNP.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bernice asks, what if I have no scholarly publications? May I still apply? Any advice, recommendations to be more competitive?
Well, it's not really scholarly. No, when we say scholarly publication, we're looking for the advisory committee members. You know, if you have a publication, that's great. But scholarly writing, if you have submitted something to your university that you scored really high on, or some other scholarly writing that is very well written, it doesn't have to be a published publication. Scholarly writing is what they're looking for.
T. Marie asks, I recently completed a post-certification PMHNP program. I'm looking into the DNP program. At this time, would I be eligible?
You've completed, yes, you've completed the post-certification, the psych mental health nurse practitioner certification. Now you want to earn your DNP. So, yes, you would apply, enroll in a DNP program and apply for the fellowship.
I think that is. It looks like that was all the questions.
No, there's one question from
Yeah, come on, I'm busy right now.
And can she talk to you after the chat?
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah,
Is
Adrian, feel free. I think she's our. Feel free to give us a call, or we can send us an email, and we can arrange a time to give you a call. Okay, we have another question here from Rachel Gray. Is the fellowship only for substance abuse? I'm a PhD student.
Rachel, if you are a PhD student that is focused in some area of mental health or substance abuse, you could apply for the program. But again, as Dr. Outlaw mentioned earlier, you know, the mission, we are funded by SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Mm-hmm. So the focus has to be mental health or substance abuse.
Right, and I think April has written here. I see she has her PhD has a focus on population health. So,
Keisha wants to know: is there a specific number of applicants that will be accepted by cycle?
I knew this question was going to come up. If you're looking for, if you're interested in the doctoral program, the number of slots that are available depends on how many fellows are graduating at the end of this grant cycle. And so it looks like we have, for the doctoral program, it looks like we're cheering at least 6 that are hoping to graduate this spring. So currently, it looks like for the doctoral program, we may have 6 slots available. And Samuel, have you did the math?
For the master's, we are, it looks like we'll be around 5 to 7, I believe, open spots this year.
Does this doctoral master program also have mentors involved?
Great question.
Yes, we have a formal mentoring program.
Each fellow is assigned a mentor.
Please mute your phones if you're not speaking. We hear someone's nice puppy in the background.
One of the participants wanted to know if this presentation could be emailed out.
Yes. If you're interested in getting this presentation, please reach out to us and we can send it to you. We'll also make we're most likely able to make the web session also available on demand.
Samuel, could I add something about the mentoring program? We have a formal mentoring program, and as Janet said, each fellow is assigned a mentor, and we have other academic supports too. We have academic statistical support, we have individual counseling and dissertation and quality improvement. In the case of DNP programs, coaching. So we have a rich group of assortment of resources to help students to be successful, which is one of the trademarks of this program.
I think that's highly comprehensive and really focused on the success of the fellow.
And Bernice said her call dropped. What was the answer to Keisha's question about the number of applicants who will be accepted? What did you say, 6 and 7, Samuel? Can you repeat that?
Between 5 and 7.
Keisha has another question. As a MFP prospect, what do you all suggest you do to competitive applicants?
Keisha, I cannot stress enough the importance of that essay. The essay needs to be, personal and scientific, but that essay carries a lot of weight. I recommend once you write it, you get your faculty advisor or someone to look at it. But the essay is really key.
And building on that, what Janet just said, we also recommend, as Samuel said, when you start to get your recommendations, that you really start to work on that essay and don't leave it until the last minute. Because as Janet said, you need to think it out, write it, get feedback from someone, your faculty advisor or the writing lab at your school and other people, to make sure it's as tight as it can be in terms of the critical thinking, the grammar, the punctuation. All of those things count. So you want to spend some really focused time developing your essay.
And if I could just add to that, Dr. Outlaw, I'm not sure, Sammy. I haven't gone on the online application, but I know at one point for the essay there was a series of questions, and in the essay applicants were to respond to those questions. And in the past, what we have seen is some of the applicants merely have listed the question and has just actually written answers under each of the questions. That is not what the advisory committee is looking for. They're looking for a scientific essay where you respond to the questions within the body of your essay.
Yes, the questions are just guides to help you focus in on what it is that is important for the advisory committee to look at.
And I think the other thing you want to do, when I'm out, recruiting face-to-face, what I always tell the applicants, having gone through this process for 17 years now, is you really want to sell yourself. I mean, I have listened to some reviews for some advisory committee members. They have to really look through your CV to see who you really are. So you don't want to make the advisory committee work to have to know who you are. You want to really, really sell yourself. If you serve on a board, if you've done any community work, if you've published, if you've done any presentations, if you volunteered, you really want to just highlight your leadership skills and some of the other things that you've done to really promote yourself.
Keisha asks, will we be penalized if the essay is more than one page?
I think there's some guidelines. I think it's three. I think it's no more than 3 pages with references, I believe. Is that still true, Samuel?
The guideline. Okay. So the guideline for the essays is that no longer than 3 pages, double spaced. And so that includes, your particular phenomenon related to scientific research or evidence-based practice, describing documentation your professional career as it integrates with the goals of scholarly clinical project or research, and then explaining how the DNP or PhD degrees with emphasis on substance abuse or psych disorders, prevention and treatment will enhance your career goals. And so that's, and it's in a few other pointers there, but the total is supposed to be 3 pages.
So the part of that too is, I think we need to stress is that when you get a guideline and they say no more than 3 pages, then you adhere to the guideline, and that becomes important because all the people on the NAC are themselves doctorally and master's prepared, and one of the things you look for is when you're writing grants and doing other kind of scholarly work is how well do you adhere to the guidelines. So if it says no more than 3 pages, you can read that as if you can say all that Samuel just said in a page and a half or 2 pages, as long as you hit that mark, but you must not go over the number of pages that they have said or the pages that you're contained to write or you're guided to write.
Are active duty military members excluded from applying?
No. that they can apply. We've had several active duty members, active duty fellows in the program.
I don't see any other questions. Were there any more questions, guys?
This is your opportunity to ask.
I see someone just joined. You've reached the end of the presentation, but if you have any questions, Kofi, I encourage you to write them in the chat box. One more question coming in.
It looks like Kofi may be asking the question as well.
Okay. When would applicants be notified of a decision by the board?
It's usually in our grant year starts September 1, so it's usually in July. We try, if we can get all the advisory committee members together to do the review process. We'd like to get the notices out in July. Our grant year changed this year, so we're trying to adjust. It used to end in July, so we were getting the information out earlier, but what we realized this year, some of the students had already started their fall semester before our grant year started, and we weren't allowed to send out any notices, prior to the start of the grant year.
Are GPAs considered when reviewing applicants?
I believe there's a place on the review side.
Yes,
yeah.
There are.
Right,
Yes.
they are.
Let's see, to typing. Kofi.
Okay, we got the question.
So I have been listening in for a while now. I have a diploma in mental health nursing from Ghana and have practiced for 10 years till I relocated here 6 months ago. I have a master's in counseling psychology. I want to stay in the nursing field, so can I apply for a master's or doctoral program here in the USA? Okay. Are you a permanent? Would that be the appropriate question?
No, I think the question there is, I believe we would have to see what the equivalent is. If the equivalent is a BSN in nursing.
Did that answer your question, Sophie?
And that's a question that perhaps we could do a little bit more digging into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And talk to, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. But if you would inbox us your name and some information that we can contact you, we will be happy to dig in that to really get real information from. We'd have to go to the state board and have them give us some, to really make sure that the information I just gave you is correct.
like we have multiple attendees typing. Okay.
Are we allowed to know the statistics from the last award cycle? How many applicants and actual awardees?
Oh, wow. I know we had a record number of applications. I don't remember the exact amount, but I think for the doctoral, I think we had, I think we were awarded about 13 doctoral, and that is because we're working out of a new grant year. So SAMHSA increased the number of fellows we could appoint. And so for the doctoral, we appointed 13.
And for the masters, I believe we were at the, I want to say 16 that were new. We had 8 that were returning from the previous cohort. Of course, some of them adjusted as being semester. Only one, they were only going to the winter semester. But I guess the basic point there, though, is that, you know, these are increasingly highly competitive awards, fellowships, which is why we stress that you all kind of, we wanted to do this session, but also stress that you all get a early start on it. And if there are any difficulties, make sure that your application is as competitive as possible.
All right, and I have to tell you, the advisory committee, when they're looking at your application package, they can usually tell the ones that were rushed and done at the last minute. So you want to, you know, as everyone has stressed tonight, you know, get an early start and just make sure that is very, very scholarly. You know, for the doctoral, there's only 6 slots. And no one has asked, but no one has, you know, asked how fellows are selected. But it is the National Advisory Committee, you know, selects the fellows, and they are assigned. Three National Advisory Committee members are assigned one application, and they do independent reviews and they score them. And then after all the applications have been reviewed and scored, we all come together and everyone discusses their score. And then the applicants, like for the doctoral program, the applicants, the 6 applicants that has the highest score would be the ones that would be accepted into the program. And then starting, I think, for this grant year, those that are accepted, then we would do a telephone interview just to follow up with you before you're actually sent your appointment letter to make sure that we're all on the same page of what you're committing to.
Right, and to add to that, Janet just gave a very good description of how that goes, and it's really objective because their categories on which you are rated are scored. There are categories on which you are scored, and for instance, there's a range. You get a range maybe from 0 to 5 for your grade point average. If your grade point average was 4, and if it were something else, so there are ranges, and it's then everything is scored, and then the numbers are added up, and that's how it's determined. That's to make it more scientific, more objective, and it's a way of making sure that the applicants, there's some equality in how things are viewed. It's sort of like when you have a rubric. You know, most of you in your undergraduate programs had a rubric, I'm sure, for how your papers were graded and that kind of thing. It's on that principle.
And the other thing I would just like to add is, I know if you apply to the program and you don't get accepted, you know, don't become disheartened because, you know, as for the doctorate, we only have 6 slots. and I'm going to say maybe we have 200 applications and we can only award, 6 people. So, apply again. We have had some people in the program that have actually applied 3 times before they were accepted in the program. So if you do apply and you don't get accepted, don't get discouraged. If at first you don't succeed, keep applying until, you do.
Is there any more questions?
Someone is asking, are we allowed to see the rubric that you're speaking of? Not the actual scoring process. I believe that our advisory committee uses. I don't think so. But without, disclosing that information, I think we have stressed tonight the importance of the essay. So just keep that in mind, essay.
Right. And your recommendations.
Right, yes.
Don't wait till the last minute for the references.
Right. And also that it is an objective, fair process.
Mm-hmm. Any more questions?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We have 6 minutes left on the hour. Well, as we stated in the...
I believe I saw Adrian type in, you emailed us. I didn't receive anything. I checked the email.
She might have sent it to the MFP at ANA.org account. We'll check there and get back to you. Okay, great question, Keisha. Up to how many years can awardees be funded? So for the doctoral fellows, if you're in a full-time program, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, it's 5 years for
up to 5 years, for PhD.
Up to 5 years, PhD. And DNP is the same, correct? Or is it 3 years?
DNP, it usually takes them about 3 years for DNP.
3 years, okay. And then master's, of course, 2 years, if you're a master's applicant.
And so what you would do is, you would submit progress reports at the end of the semester, and our advisory committee would look at that, look at your progress, your participation in the required program activities, and so the advisory committee looks at your transcripts and all of that information to see your progress your first year or in the program to determine whether or not it merits reappointment for another year. And again, for the doctoral, it's up to 5 years. DNP, 3.
And just building on, sorry, Jen.
No, go ahead.
I said building on that, we do have sort of for the master students who come on board in our 2 years, we do have cases and are encouraged sort of from a pipeline perspective. For those who go on to apply, you do have to make another application, but apply from a master's, so they'll be a master's fellow, then go on to become doctoral fellows. They apply, and so we've had about 2 or 3 cases of that being happening. And given that you're already a master's fellow, that's sort of I guess an advantage in sorts for when you apply for the doctoral fellowship to do that. So.
And again, we've also. Excuse me, Sammy. I was just going to say, and for the for the PhD fellows, some come into the program. In fact, the first known person to get a DNP and a PhD was one of our fellows when the DNP first came out. So she had 5 years. So she came in and she did her DNP like in a year or two, and then she went on to earn her PhD while she was in the program. So, and then we have some fellows like I think this is what you said, Samuel, fellows that are in the program that are master's fellows, and the thing about the program is once you get accepted in the program, the fellows don't want to leave the program. So I remember some fellows, have the intent of just earning their master's degree, and then after they get in the program and they see all the support that they get, some, continue on with their DNP or PhD. And then we've had, I can think of some instances where one fellow had this grant, the MFP grant, and I guess she had applied for another federally funded grant at the same time, but she had our grant, and then she decided to let our grant go and take the other grant. And every time I see her to this day, she regrets doing that because she didn't have the support at the other grant, federally funded grant that she accepted, that she got when she was with the MFP. So, our fellows do get a stipend, but most of them, if you talk to any of our fellows, they will tell you, yes, the stipend is great, but it's the support. And they refer to us as the MFP family. They go on and they become friends, and over a lifetime, they publish together. We have an alumni organization. We had some fellows. We were in Alaska just 2 years ago, and there were some fellows that were graduating that did not want to leave the program. So they started the alumni, MFP alumni, it's called SAMHSA MFP at ANIA Alumni Work Group. And so now they have officers, they have bylaws, they give out an outstanding alumni award, they sponsor in collaboration with the Office of the MFP webinars. So again, once you get in the program, they want to stay connected to the program.
Okay, so we've reached the 9 o'clock hour. I think we want to thank everybody who's been online and asked great questions. As mentioned earlier, this session has been recorded, and therefore we'll distribute out both the video recording of it as well as the PowerPoint to those who'd like it. Feel free again to reach out to us at mfp@ana.org, which is in the chat box, for any further questions. We wish everyone the best of luck as you complete the application, and look forward to receiving your completed information. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Have
you.
a great
Good night. Good night.
Good night.